Hi, we are from SPF3. Our subject is FST 20703, Food Production Technology and Management. Our coordinator for this subject is Dr. Krishna Veni, anak perempuan Velu. My name is Nur Hafiza Bint Abdul Halim and metric number F1AKA0171.
My name is Nurin Syuhada binti Muhammad Radwan. My metric number is F18A0172.
Hi, my name is Nurul Akilah binti Muhammad Suhaimi and my metric number is F18A0182. Our topic is about the potential of cassava as food resources.
There are 5 content in our presentation of cassava, which are Content A, Introduction, Content B, Cassava Production as Food Resources, Content C, Detailed Milling and Production of Cassava, Content D, Example of Product produced from cassava, and the last one is Content E, Conclusion.
Content A, Introduction of Cassava. Cassava is a root vegetable, nutty flavored and starchy root vegetable or tuber. It is originated from South American forests. The tastes are sweet and chewy. The most consumption of cassava is in Nigeria, where in 2018, around 59 million tons be produced and 6 million hectares of area harvested in that country. Cassava is unique because it has ability to grow well in poor soil conditions and drought places. Cassava is rich with calories and also contains carbohydrate, vitamins and minerals. However, this crop can be toxic when still raw. Because of that, it has to be cooked first before eaten. Cassava has many functions and benefits, such as the leaves of cassava contain the high amount of vitamins, especially vitamin C and folate. Folate can increase the cell production, while vitamin C functions as destroying the bacteria or virus. These leaves can sustain the health of bone. In Malaysia, the production of cassava only around 39,000 tons and 2,000 hectare area harvested. Cassava is the crop that has huge potential to increase the economic growth in Malaysia. Basically, cassava has function from food product for human also for animal. The biodegradable products until as the starch. Content B, Cassava Production as Food Resources. Cassava has been listed as the third largest source of feed, either in human or animal feed carbohydrates, after maize and rice. It's also known as the major food crop in Africa and well known at Asia. Cassava also already become a staple food in some countries. The leaves and the root consist of carbohydrate, protein, and mineral, which are good for human and animal to consume it. Cassava classified as sweet or bitter, but it will depend on the cyanide content in the crops. The cyanide will interpret the odor called bitter element, which are released from the natural substances in food and some plants. The high of starch content will give the bitter variety, and this variety is suitable for industrial and feed. The bitter varieties can produce the great flour and local beer. However, some countries did not use bitter variety because they do not like it as food. But there are also countries like northern Uganda more like cultivate bitter varieties because it feels more delicious compared to sweet varieties. For the sweet varieties, it's more be chosen to make the food. It is because the bitter cassava is not suggesting for consumption, except the processed consumption is safe and well treated. The food production is really important to ensure the cassava production always maintained to be as food resources. The cassava products have to always maintain and improve the quality. Many researchers and farmers have prepared the guideline to provide the proper production, such as using integrated and crop need-based nutrient, weed, insect pest, and disease management plan for growing cassava. This is important because when using the better methods for crop management, the yields of cassava can be improved and reduce the production cost. Therefore, the food resources by cassava can always be controlled to ensure the food can consume to all human and animal which need.
Content C.
Part A. Detailed milling of cassava. Milling process of cassava includes several methods of selecting roots, peeling, washing, grating, pressing, drying, milling, sifting, packaging, and storing. Firstly, to select the harvested cassava roots, the roots must have few fibrous roots, and the flesh of roots should be white and no bruises or cracking. Second step, the root is peeled to remove the inedible outer layer, whether by using hand or mechanical peeler. Third step, the peeled roots should be cleaned by washing it with clean water to remove the soils, leaves, and other impurities. Fourth step, the root is grating into fine mesh by using perforated iron sheet or mechanical grater. Fifth step, the grated cassava mesh is packed in a clean sack and will press by using screw press or hydraulic jack to crumble the cassava as well as to reduce the moisture content from cassava. Sixth step, drying process often used where the pressed cassava mesh were placed on a clean black plastic sheet and dried under sunlight. Seventh, the dried cassava mesh is milled with the use of milling machines called hammer mill. Eighth step, the milled cassava were sifted by using a simple homemade sieve or vibration sieve to remove the fibrous material and improve the fineness of final product. Lastly, the sifted cassava were packed in a black silk plastic bag and stored in a cool and dry place for about 6 months.
Let's continue with Part B, production of cassava. Malaysia is relatively minor country that producing cassava compared to Nigeria that has the world's largest production of cassava every year. In Malaysia, production of cassava very peaked in 1991 with 400,000 tons, but it dropped to less than 50,000 tons in 2011, that ground under an area of 3,000 hectares. Besides, 83% of production cassava contributed by Johor. Cassava seems to be a popular traditional food source for all communities in Malaysia. So it can be expected that Malaysia will always have some domestic consumption. In Nigeria, the majority of cassava production occurs in the southern and central region of the country with the highest production level at 5 million tons in 2012. In Southeast Asia, Indonesia is the major of production cassava. In 2009, Indonesia produced production of cassava is more than 20 million tons and its produce increasing from year to year in 20 million tons in 2011. Indonesia has based the production of bioethanol from cassava on molasses, and due to a number of economic inefficiencies, it has not been able to produce quality fuel ethanol since 2010. Thailand is the second major and the world's largest exporter. In addition, Production cassava in Thailand is supported by strong private sector. Even the growers are mainly smallholder, and their yields are 150% higher than Nigeria. Thailand have 24 factories producing ethanol and chip from cassava for promotion of ethanol as a transportation fuel. In 2009, is a peak of cassava production in Thailand with 30 million tons, but the production decreased until 2012. Let's move to the content D. Example of food product produced from cassava. Our example is cassava flour. Cassava flour is increasingly popular as a gluten-free flour and has huge potential that will be a good substitute for wheat flour, and it comes from ground cassava root. It is gluten, grain, and nut-free as well as vegan, vegetarian, and paleo. Besides, cassava flour is not the same as tapioca flour because there are distinct differences, though sometimes it used interchangeably. Cassava flour is the wood root, peeled and dried ground. This means that cassava flour has more dietary fiber than tapioca flour. All cassava flour that has been commercially do not contain any harmful level of cyanide. Though cassava root contain naturally occurring cyanide compound, and it can be extremely toxic only if eaten raw. That is why traditional culture that depend on cassava for sustenance have century-old soaking, cooking, and fermentation process, and all the process eliminate the toxic compound and prevent one from getting sick. Carbohydrate is high in cassava flour, and in example, cassava has double the calories and carbohydrate per 100 gram. For millions of native people, this makes it an important and safe source of food. In addition, the most similar to cassava flour is wheat flour, but cassava flour is very mild and natural in flavor. These qualities make cassava flour a favorite flour for gluten-free, grain-free baking, cooking that can be replaced with flour. There are many people prefer baking with cassava flour because it does not have a bad taste or smell that can often hold fermented sprouted grain flour. For people with health problems such as diabetes, high blood pressure or high cholesterol, cassava flour is a safe option to add on in their food since it has relatively low in salt, sugar, and fat. Cassava flour also rich in vitamin C, which can help alleviate stress, strengthen your immune system, and can contribute to skin health as an antioxidant. There are 6 steps in processing of cassava flour, which are cleaning, washing, grating, dewatering, drying, and sieving. The first part, washing the fresh root, then peel them and wash again. The second part, chop the root into small pieces and leave under the sun for 2 or 3 days. The moisture content of the cassava chip should be less than 8% after drying. Then the flour sieved through an active mesh sieve after the chips mill. The flour is eventually wrapped in plastic containers. Mechanized, semi-automatic, and semi-manual cassava flour can be made in processing. In addition, cassava flour needs to store in airtight container in a cool or dry pantry. The cassava flour processing machine adopted is distinct from the cassava starch processing machine due to the various processing technique. Color of cassava is not white as white cassava starch because the toxicity of cassava is removed during processing starch.
Content E. Conclusion. In conclusion, cassava crop plays an important role as industrial crops that have high competitive advantage among other sources of raw materials. This is because cassava is rich in protein, carbohydrate, vitamins, and minerals, where all the sources can be found not only in roots but also in their leaves and tuber. Furthermore, it enhances the nutritional quality content by developing new varieties of industrial products such as starch, flour, and ethanol. Lastly, it serves as food resources and helps in dealing with health problems since it is consumed by people as staple food, boiled, and fermented into other foods. That's all. Thank you very much for your attention.